this information overload, it fragments your brain. You lose what Byung-Chul Han talks about, the essence of time. So you start to lose the essence of time because your mind is so fragmented. And so then, though you are hyper-productive, you don't actually produce any quality.
Yeah.
You produce only quantity, right? And this is what speaks to one of the most difficult books to ever read, one of the most important books to ever read, is The Reign of Quantity and the Sign of the Times by Rene Guénon. It's not for the faint-hearted, but it's a very deep book, and it goes into the compression of time in the Kali Yuga, right? And it doesn't just talk about that, it talks about a lot of things, but mainly the reign of quantity, right? And so in part of the Kali Yuga is you have this reign of quantity. And so what does that mean? Well, it means that there's going to be information overload. And what does that mean? Well, that means that you won't produce any quality, because in the Kali Yuga, quantity is what is important. And so what do we see online? What do we see in the world with the paradox of choice, where we have like 1,000 breakfast cereals to choose from? Or, like it was much simpler when there was one burger joint in town, right? But now there's 500 burger joints in town, and then you're sort of inhibited or paralyzed by choice because you have so many options to choose from, and then you lack this satisfaction because there are so many choices. You might pick one of those and you might eat it and you might be not satisfied and think, I wonder what that other place was like. So we've got way too many options. And so this is the Kali Yuga, right? If we take the ancient world age doctrine of Sanatana Dharma seriously, we are only at the beginning of the Kali Yuga of this 432,000 year cycle. And so we are going into this age of the reign of quantity, and it's information what speeds it up, right? And so this is what the compression of time is. Rene Guénon talked about this compression of time in the Kali Yuga. It's like this, think about a bottleneck, right? It's like all of us are in this bottleneck, and it gets faster as you're coming out the bottleneck. And so time, thankfully for us, on a collective universal level, time is faster in the Kali Yuga because we can get through this nonsense quicker, sooner rather than later. Whereas when we're in the Satya Yuga, the golden age, time is very slow. And so the essence of time is very vivid in the Satya Yuga. But in the Kali Yuga, with this compression of time, part of that compression of time is the reign of quantity and mass information. And so when you're sitting on your phone on the couch, you're going from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next, and then you realize like an hour and a half is gone. How is that even possible? It's not because like, for example, you could have been sitting beside me where I'm on the phone doing this. You're reading the Upanishads there, right? Your relationship to that hour and a half is completely different to my relationship. Whereas I'm just like, whatever, scrolling. Not that I ever do that. But, that's an example, right? And so it's the information overload that is speeding up the time for a lot of people on a subjective level, right? And so, they say that maybe the hermit in the Himalayas still has a Satya Yuga state of consciousness. And so their perspective of time in the Kali Yuga is still very slow because they're not sort of influenced by modernity, right? And so Rene Guénon was a critic of modernity. He was a critic of progressivism. He was more a supporter of traditionalism and religions and this and that. And he was one of the deepest thinkers to have ever lived. And so you've got this reign of quantity, right, which is weighing us down, where we lose the essence of time, and then we don't have anything to show for ourselves, because what's part of the Kali Yuga, what's part of this compression of time, as you were alluding to? In the achievement-based society, we are trained to be producers, never to sit around idle. You and I were just having a conversation just before this podcast. We're sitting on the couch, just looking out at the birds and that, and having a bit of a laugh. And we were saying, I wonder if people actually sit around and just, because we didn't really have anything in mind.
Yeah, that sort of experience that people don't see any reason or point to do that, because unfortunately most of us are always think of time to use wisely, as in the productivity wise. Yeah, as an extension of the reign of quantity, concept that the world today, that we treat our life, the everyday life, or in an extension that even entire life we think as some sort of business, right? So we need to achieve a certain amount of something, or it has to be productive, and you need to make each day productive and working towards something. It has a good motivation to a certain extent, but the problem is that is the only lifestyle that we have, and we seem like if we don't follow through that way, then we might fall behind kind of way of thinking. But is it really? I'd like to question that, because our perspective on productivity is only going to get us more anxious and more agitated, and in a way that's not enough, or you're always going to lack in comparison to others, or other colleagues and whatnot, right? But real productivity is from being able to see time as like a bigger blocks, like not like minutes, hours, or days like this. It's more like if you can see the long form of time as in like some sort of a flow, like flowing down the river, like kind of then you'll be able to see the let's say, for example, in a week, in each week measurement, like you can see the ebbs and flows within that week, what happened, and instead of you dissecting by hour in each day, that only going to make you feel more anxious. But if we were to see time as a more like a bigger scale, then I think you will be able to get a lot more ease in your life. And from that sense, I think you can achieve a much more bigger things. I personally don't think that it's important what you do, let's say 2 hours from, let's say, 8 to 10 in the morning each day, or unless like something that you need to you have to fulfill or something like that. Sure, Not in a way that you make yourself busy for no reason, right? This morning from this time to this time, I haven't done anything. I just wasted my time and this and that, and like that's too much of a small scale of time you're talking about. And in that way, I don't. Okay, maybe you can do little things on a computer that machine can help you to achieve something. But if you're planning to do some big project, or if you're working on some creative project, and that sort of work, you need a much longer time frame. And it's not important what you do in a day. It's important what's been done in a week time, for example. Because you mentioned idling. The doing nothing and spending time on, let's say, gardening, like you said, on cleaning the house, it feels like, well, in fact, that people these days hire other people to do that and pay those people. But while you do it yourself, because your brain having a rest in that moment, there's much more inspiration and motivation, different kind of motivation, that it doesn't come up when you're actually actively doing something, right? So that actually you give yourself time to rest and idle, but in the meantime that you actually get to have a deeper sense of motivation and creativity comes from somewhere deep inside you, right? Yep. So that's actually more important.
Yeah, I like that, the sort of those longer cycles in our lives, like what you were mentioning. You know, it's interesting because, like, if you look at the achievement-based society as we live in now, where it's all about hyper-productivity, the reign of quantity, where we don't actually produce any quality, we just produce a lot of things, is that when we look at our lives, we, as you were saying, we kind of treat our life as a business. And so that's why our relationships are like business transactions, but that's why we also micromanage our life. And this is a complete disaster. And so you see a lot of these like fitness influencers and entrepreneurs and that in the online space and in the world, where they wake up at 3, they meditate for 2 hours, they've run up the mountain, they've come back, they've lifted weights, and it's only 7 o'clock. Do you know what I mean? And so by the time you get to 7 o'clock, you're completely gassed.
Go back to bed.
You go back to bed, like. And so, unfortunately, there's a lot of naive people in the world that fall for this type of charlatanism, right? And so, I remember there was one specific fitness influencer, and one guy was critiquing the amount of time it would actually take to do everything he did. This guy even stretched for 2 hours before. And so he would stretch for 2 hours before he would do anything. And at the end of the day, he would stretch for another 2 hours. And this guy said, so this guy's literally going to bed at 1 in the morning, waking up at 3 in the morning. He's like, if you believe this, I mean, what can you say?
Yeah, 4 hours just for stretching each day is quite a lot of
Yeah. So, but why people are interested in this is because of the achievement-based society, and that they think that if they can micromanage their life, they can fit everything in their day. But what happens when you try to fit everything in your day is you don't produce anything that has any lasting value. So like you said, like sometimes between 8 and 10, maybe don't do anything.
Yeah.
Like just if you don't have anything literally to do, read a book or chill or go for a walk or something that's slow productivity, as Cal Newport talks about, right? And so, but again, don't even call it productivity. Again, you're turning it into something. Don't turn your life into anything. Allow it to be as it will be. This is the problem in the modern day. We're turning everything into something. It's very contrived, right? And so we got to stop micromanaging our life. Okay, if you're interested in meditation and exercise, you can try and fit those both in a day, but don't try to be superhuman about it if you just don't have the time, literally. Like if you have a 9-to-5 job, the chances that you're going to be able to fit everything in is minimal. You need to leave time for idleness, leave time for maybe after work, sitting in the park and chewing a couple of roast nuts or something like that, and looking at the pigeons and feeding the birds and things that are very natural to us. If you take advantage of this time that we have, or if you don't take advantage of this time that you have, nothing's going to change. That's the newsflash, right? Like we all think that we need to get everything done ASAP, as if we are someone important, and we don't need to do it. We create this in our own mind. We create this micromanagement efficiency mindset in our own mind, but no one else cares. Like, for example, if I don't produce a book in the next 5 years, no one's going to lose any sleep. It'd only be me putting the pressure on myself to write a new book. But if a new book is not published, no one could care two hoots if there was a book published or not, because they have past books to read anyway, right? So we create all of this unnecessary anxiety for ourselves.